I can only say that the attacks, it's attacks every day, every night. It's not just the one, you're talking about one. The attacks have been very successful, even beyond our wildest expectations. We've hit them very hard, very successfully. I can tell you the result is unbelievable because the Houthis are looking to do something. They want to know, how do we stop? Can we have peace? The Houthis want peace because they're getting the hell knocked out of them.
The Houthi rebels have been under relentless fire after they made the deadly mistake of attacking a U.S. military fighter jet and MQ-9 Reaper drone over the Red Sea. Within hours, U.S. Marines and warships launched a brutal counterattack. Cruise missiles, stealth bombers, and precision airstrikes rained down on Yemen. It's been over a month since that attack, and the airstrikes haven't stopped. U.S. forces are still pounding Houthi territory, and the Pentagon says this won't end until the Houthis are completely crushed. Every last one of them. Now, Iran, their biggest sponsor, has pulled out. Tehran has just ordered its soldiers to leave Yemen immediately to avoid direct confrontation with the U.S. forces. So now, without Iran behind, can the Houthis survive what's coming next, or will they finally surrender? The Red Sea has been under constant threat since Yemen's Houthi rebels declared support for Gaza and began targeting Western ships. They have successfully launched hundreds of attacks on commercial vessels, tankers, and drones.
The Houthis have been horrible to the world. What they've done, killed a lot of people, and knocked down a lot of ships and planes and anything else. It's not just the ships.
Until now, most of their attacks stopped just short of direct war with the United States. But that changed on the morning of February 19, 2025. That morning, a U.S. Air Force F-16 fighter jet from the 421st Fighter Squadron was flying over the Red Sea. It was part of a routine air patrol mission near the Yemeni coast. Flying close by was an MQ-9 Reaper drone, collecting surveillance data over international waters. Both aircraft were operating under standard protocol, unarmed, defensive, and strictly monitoring activity around Yemen's northern region, where Houthi rebels have been operating for months. Unbeknownst to the U.S. forces, the Houthis had been laying an ambush somewhere in the Sada province, waiting for a perfect time to strike. Then suddenly, they launched 2 surface-to-air missiles from their concealed position. U.S. intelligence would later confirm that the missiles were Iranian-made. They had been modified to target fast-moving jets. The F-16's radar picked up the threat within seconds, and the pilot, who was no rookie, reacted instantly by pulling off an evasive maneuver. The Reaper drone also rerouted instantly, and in less than 10 seconds, the U.S. military avoided what could have been a deadly international incident. But the U.S. wasn't going to let that slide. The attempted strike triggered a full mission shift from passive observation to active defense inside the Combat Operations Center aboard the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower. Coordinates of the launch site were locked in using satellite and drone footage. Military analysts confirmed the trajectory came from northern Yemen, near Sada, a well-known Houthi stronghold. This failed missile strike gave the U.S. all it needed: proof of direct aggression from the Houthis, the exact coordinates of their location, and a full justification to unleash hell on them. By late afternoon on February 19th, 2 U.S. Navy destroyers, the USS Laboon and USS Mason, had received targeting data and were ready to rain down hell on the rebels. Both ships later fired Tomahawk cruise missiles toward launch sites in Sayada province. This was a region notorious for housing mobile Houthi missile platforms and radar units. The first wave of cruise missiles hit suspected launch racks, radar arrays, and camouflaged command stations near the mountain ridges of northern Yemen. These were the same areas where the F-16 and MQ-9 Reaper had been tracked hours earlier. U.S. intelligence had already used infrared satellite imaging and drone surveillance to confirm heat signatures and plume trails left by the earlier Houthi missile launch. Simultaneously, U.S. Air Force fighter jets, likely F-18s, were launched from the carrier group. They were ordered to hit known radar positions and anti-aircraft sites that had been monitoring U.S. aircraft activity. Some of these radar systems were reported to be Iranian-designed, embedded inside reinforced buildings and shielded bunkers. According to reports from local sources, the U.S. further escalated the assault by using B-2 Spirit bombers deployed from the Diego Garcia base in the Indian Ocean. Multiple strikes targeted Kamaran Island, which sits off the Yemeni coast and serves as a strategic military zone under Houthi control. It's believed the site contained large missile stockpiles, command shelters, and Iranian-supplied weapon caches. Eyewitnesses described the explosions as unlike anything they'd seen before. The bombs dropped were 30,000-pound GBU-57 bunker busters, designed to destroy deep underground structures. By nightfall, satellite footage showed large-scale damage across the region. Houthi media later confirmed that 5 separate airstrikes had hit Kamaran Island. Additional rounds of bombing in the nearby Al-Hawak district reportedly took out communications towers and weapons depots. In Sana'a, the capital of Yemen, the U.S. rapport hit the Beni Hush and Al-Sabian districts, where drone launch pads and missile sites were located. These were believed to be the launch points for past attacks on U.S. ships in the Red Sea. Again, multiple airstrikes were recorded by residents. Explosions lit up the night sky as Houthi infrastructure collapsed under the assault. In total, at least 22 airstrikes were confirmed that day across 2 major cities and multiple frontline positions. U.S. Central Command later described the strikes as proportionate and targeted, aimed strictly at military infrastructure directly connected to the attempted F-16 shoot-down. For months, the U.S. had maintained a mostly defensive stance. They had been intercepting Houthi drones, escorting commercial ships, and issuing diplomatic warnings. But the attempted strike on a manned U.S. warplane changed everything. Right after the first round of bombing in February, the Pentagon moved quickly to reshape its entire military posture in the region. Then, in March 2015, President Donald Trump approved a major military buildup and gave a direct order to the Pentagon to launch an all-missile campaign against the rebels.
And we begin this Sunday morning with President Trump's new message to Iran, with the commander-in-chief ordering a powerful and deadly attack against Iranian-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen over the weekend. Multiple rebels dead after the strikes hit the intended targets in Yemen's capital city on Saturday. With President Trump writing on Truth Social, the Houthis have waged an unrelenting campaign of piracy, violence, and terrorism against American ships, aircraft, and drones. Your attacks must stop starting today, and if they don't, hell will rain down upon you like nothing you have ever seen before.
Following President Trump's order, over 40,000 U.S. troops were repositioned across key points in the Middle East, and the Navy expanded its presence in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. The USS Harry S. Truman was positioned in the northern part of the Red Sea, while the USS Carl Vinson moved into position from the Persian Gulf. That pinned the Houthis down from 2 directions. The air power was even more aggressive. The U.S. deployed F-35 stealth fighters, B-2 Spirit bombers, THAAD missile defense systems, and Patriot batteries across Allied bases in the region. These systems were placed to intercept any incoming drone or missile threat across key shipping lanes and oil routes. Then came the second wave of strikes. Over the next several days, nearly 200 airstrikes were launched across Yemen.
These Houthi strikes have been incredibly successful. Last time I was at this podium, there were more than 100 successful strikes. There have now been over 200 successful strikes against the Houthis.
The main targets were 2 cities, Hodeidah, Al-Huda, and Sana'a. Both are under full Houthi control and play key roles in the group's operations. Hodeidah is one of the most important military and economic centers for the Houthis. It sits on the Tihama coastal plain along the Red Sea and serves as their main supply route from Iran. U.S. intelligence had already identified missile launch sites, weapons storage bunkers, command centers, and oil depots scattered across the city and its surrounding areas. In one strike, the U.S. targeted Kamaran Island, just off the coast of Hodeidah. This area had been fortified with long-range missile racks and was reportedly used to smuggle Iranian weapons by sea. Multiple U.S. aircraft, including bombers and drones, took part in the attack, and the damage was extensive. Satellite photos later showed several destroyed launch pads and weapons depots. Another round of strikes hit the Al-Hawak area, located in the heart of Hodeidah. This area was believed to house Houthi field commanders and underground bunkers that had been used for years to plan attacks on Red Sea shipping routes. This attack resulted in significant casualties, with at least 8 people killed and several others injured. U.S. bombers also targeted the oil storage depots, pipeline terminals, and fuel distribution hubs inside the city. These strikes were aimed at crippling the Houthis' fuel supply, which they used to power mobile launch vehicles, generators, and drone production lines. Days after the attack, fuel prices tripled in some parts of Yemen. Long fuel lines and blackouts were reported in nearly every Houthi-held town. The attacks later shifted to Sana'a, the capital of Yemen. This place is not just the political center of the Houthis. It's also a massive military hub. It holds drone and missile research facilities, command centers, and multiple hidden airfields. U.S. jets conducted back-to-back bombing runs in the Rajam area of the Beni Hush district and the Al Naden sector of the Al Sabian district. The targets were chosen based on drone surveillance and intercepted Houthi communications. Both areas had long been suspected of harboring mobile drone launchers and warehouses filled with Iranian-supplied weapons. One target was a cluster of buildings where Houthi operatives were believed to be coordinating maritime drone strikes. Another target was a launch yard disguised as an industrial site. Both were completely destroyed. Explosions rocked the capital for 2 nights in a row, and by the end of the week, U.S. Central Command confirmed that hundreds of airstrikes had been carried out across Yemen. This turned out to be the most intense bombardment in the region since the early stages of the Saudi-led war in 2015.
We got the reports last night, Maria. The Houthi capital felt like an earthquake. Dozens and dozens of precision heavy munitions dropping precisely on the targets that we wanted to hit, sending a very clear message. And the message is clear to Iran as well. And the president said it in his truth. Your support of the Houthis needs to end immediately.
The scale of destruction in both Hodeidah and Sana'a put the Houthis in a defensive position. They couldn't move weapons freely. They couldn't launch missiles without getting spotted. Their radar systems were either destroyed or jammed, and with American surveillance drones constantly in the sky, they had no place to hide. Even communications between Houthi units started to break down, causing many of their commanders to go dark. They abandoned cell towers and resorted to radio silence. Others retreated into underground bunkers or fled their bases entirely.
Iran is incredibly weakened as a result of these attacks, and we have seen they've taken out Houthi leaders. They've taken out critical members who were launching strikes on naval ships and on commercial vessels, and this operation will not stop until the freedom of navigation in this region is restored, which is a critical principle, and this president stands behind our Defense Department, who's doing a tremendous job.
The Houthis are not the only ones shaken by these attacks. Their biggest sponsor and supporter is on the run, too. According to reports from British intelligence and Iranian media, Tehran has ordered its military personnel to leave Yemen. For years, Iran had denied any direct involvement with the Houthis. Iranian officials had repeatedly claimed they were not supplying weapons or military aid to the Houthis. But Western intelligence and evidence on the ground, like drone wreckage, shattered missile parts, and radar systems, all pointed back to Iran.
And the difference here is, one, going after the Houthi leadership, and two, holding Iran responsible. It is Iran that has repeatedly funded, resourced, trained, and helped the Houthis target not only U.S. warships, but global commerce, and has helped the Houthis shut down 2 of the world's most strategic sea lanes.
Now, following the U.S. relentless missile campaign on the Houthis, Tehran's actions have finally confirmed what they had long denied. Multiple Iranian military officials, believed to be members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, began evacuating Yemen. One senior Iranian official who spoke to The Telegraph said they were afraid. With President Trump ordering the largest U.S. military buildup in the region in years, Iran knew that keeping their men on the ground could start a full-blown war. Iran didn't want to risk an American missile killing one of their own, and they certainly didn't want Trump to use that as an excuse to hit Tehran directly. So they cut their losses and got out. Some of those Iranian officers were also reportedly fleeing through the port city of Hodeidah, using container ships and even small fishing boats to escape unnoticed. Military sources believe some Houthi leaders may have escaped with them, knowing that more U.S. strikes could come at any moment. The global economy is bleeding because the Red Sea is now a militarized zone. This region is one of the most critical arteries for global trade, and over a third of the world's container traffic passes through its waters. About 12% of global oil, 8% of liquefied natural gas, and 40% of all Asia-Europe trade are shipped through the Suez Canal, which connects directly to the Red Sea. Since the Houthi attacks began, hundreds of commercial ships have been forced to take a longer route around the Horn of Africa, adding millions of dollars in fuel costs per trip. Insurance premiums for Red Sea shipping have skyrocketed. Some cargo companies are now paying 10 times more than they did before the attacks began. Global supply chains are already feeling the strain. And if the chaos continues, experts warn that prices for basic goods, including fuel, could start rising again worldwide. To contain the threat, the U.S. is not acting alone. Its European allies have stepped in. The UK, France, and Germany have all issued strong public support for the US response. The French Navy pledged additional warships to help patrol the area as part of Operation Spides, while Britain's defense ministry confirmed that it was expanding joint operations in the Red Sea corridor. Even NATO leadership, which is usually cautious, has also issued a rare public statement saying that strikes by the US and British militaries against Iran-backed Houthi forces in Yemen were defensive and designed to preserve freedom of navigation in one of the world's most vital waterways. At the same time, the United Nations called for restraint, urging both sides to avoid actions that could further destabilize the region. But behind closed doors, diplomats have reportedly admitted that the US had every right to respond after its warplane was targeted. However, not everyone agrees on how far Washington should go. Some people argue that a long-term air campaign alone won't solve the problem. The Houthis still control vast parts of northern Yemen, including the capital, Sana'a, and many remote strongholds. So without ground operations, they say, the group won't be completely neutralized. However, deploying ground troops comes with a lot of risks, and the US forces could incur some casualties. The Pentagon is aware of this, and for now, it's relying on airstrikes, surveillance, and cyber intelligence while keeping major combat troops out of Yemen's cities. So now, the real question now is what comes next? Well, President Trump and his defense team have made it very clear that the onslaught will continue until the Houthis can no longer US and allied ships on the Red Sea.
And President Trump has said, we will restore that and we will be unrelenting. I want to be very clear. This campaign is about freedom of navigation and restoring deterrence. The minute the Houthis say, we'll stop shooting at your ships, we'll stop shooting at your drones, this campaign will end. But until then, it will be unrelenting.
The Houthis now have two choices: negotiate and stop targeting American ships, or stand their ground and watch everything they've built get crushed under the full weight of the United States military. But do you think the Pentagon's strategy of maximum pressure is really going to stop the Houthis and restore peace in the region? Or are we creating the next generation of enemies by leveling an already broken country? Feel free to share your thoughts with us in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more in-depth videos on geopolitics like the ones on your screen right now. Click on any of the cards on your screen to watch more of our videos.